Next step is to add item, right? That's going to be a new, this is going to be a method that I'm about to implement, add item. And you can think add item as a mutator method, right? Or the set method, because I'm going to change, I have to change this value, right? The value of the instance variable, the value of the instance variable. So when you when I add this, create this add item method, the price is going to be the input parameter to this add item method or add item function. Right? And the reason that this add item is called the mutator method or the set method is that this method, right, is going to change. It's going to change this item count and the total price, right? Because item count will be incremented by 1, because when you add item, right? And then this total price is also going to be changed because you're going to add the price to this total price, right? So in that sense, this add item method is, we can call it mutator method or the set method, because it's going to change the value of those two variables. So let's implement, let's just implement add item. So it's a function, right? So I'm going to say definition, and then usually for the set method, you start with a set, right? But in this case, if typically if you want to change only one value of instance variable, then you typically start with a set. But in this case, it's going to change two instance variable. Also, it makes sense to use the name add item. By the way, this is a function name, right? So you can change it. You can use any name you want. Add item, or you can say add underscore item. It's really up to you. Let's say add item, and then self, and then we're going to use price as an input parameter to this add item method. And then this is function, you need a semicolon. And then once the item is added to the cash register, right, you need to increment this item count by 1, right? So self dot underscore item count is equal to self dot underscore item count plus 1. So increment item count by 1, right? And then another one is the total price, right? This total price will be affected once this item is added to the cash register. You need to add that value to a total price. So your new total price is going to be basically, this is your old total price, and plus a price, right? So plus price. So so let's just compile this. Run module. Good. So I don't have any problem. So in the main, now I can use this method. So let's take a look at this main. In the main, you know that I first create the first object, right? Once I create the object, using this reference variable register 1, now I can use all the method, like a get count, get total, add item. Okay? let's say from using the reference variable, now I'm going to use this method. Let's say add item, right? I'm going to use this method, add item. So this is add item. Okay, so as you can see, this is I'm asking what? Basically, this means the main is asking basically this object, right, to add one item, right? Add item. That's how you should interpret this. Add item. And then what is the price? Let's say the Diet Pepsi is $1 and let's say $1.20, right? And to that register 1. And then I'm going to add another item. Let's say like this time Coca-Cola is 80 cents. So your second item is added to the same register 1. Add item 1. So I'm going to add. And then what is the price is let's say 80 cents. Right? So now two items is added. So this is the first item is added, and this one is the second item is added to register 1. To register 1. Actually, added to the object pointed by register 1. I think that's more like a precise way. So a second item is added to the same thing, to the object, basically this object, pointed by register 1, right? So now, let's just print a total price. So print, you have to say, first you can, using get count, you can find a number of items added to the counter, the register 1. So print, so you can say register 1 using this reference variable, and then you can call this get count. Okay, so another thing that you have to remember is if you want to use this method, add items, get total, get count, you first have to create an object, right? Now, using the reference variable pointing to this object, you can use all the method, right? Method of that particular object. So register 1, right? This object has what? Now I can use get count. So this get count is, get underscore, I have to follow the get count, right? Get count. And then I'll say number of items, colon, is register 1 get count. So it's going to return the number of items. Okay, so let's just run this. Good. Number of items is 2, right? Number of item is 2. Because I added the first item, and thus this is going to be incremented by 1. And then you add a second item. So this add item is called again. So your self item, the count is also incremented by 1. So it's a total of the 2. And then the print. This time what? Number of items, right? So let's say total price. Total price is colon, and you have to use this time what? To find about this total price, you have to use this get method. get total. So basically, if you want to use the value of this instance variable, right? You always you should use this get method, get count and get tutorial. So if you have, let's say, 5 instance variable, then you're supposed to have a 5 get method. If you have a, let's say, 10 instance variable, then you should have a 10 different get method. Right? Sometimes you don't really need to have all 10 of them, but yes, it's good to have basically get method for all the instance variables, especially if you need to print those value out. Then yes, then you must have a get method for the particular instance variable. Now, okay, so this is my first object. You know that I just created a second object, so now I can use all this. The method, since I have created another object. So register2 is a reference variable, right? So now let's just do the same thing. For this time, I'm going to just add one item. So register2 dot add item. So this is really saying that the main, right? Main is asking this object, right, to do this add item, and then I'm going to add another item. Let's say let's say I just buy a mechanical pencil, and the price of mechanical pencil is $3.25. Right? Add item. As you see, the price, you have to provide a price, right? So this is the input parameter for this add item function or the method. And then same thing. I'm gonna just, if you just print, paste. It have an indentation, correct indentation. So this time it's a second object, so register2. Okay. So I expect that number of item is 1 because I have added just 1, and the total price is just $3.25. So let's just run this. Okay, good. So I'm going to end my lecture here. Oh, maybe, by the way, if you want to just set the, let's say, item count and total price, you can add another set method. Okay, let's just do that now. So if you want to, let's say, change the value of, let's say, item count, then what you can do is definition set, right? Typically the mutator method or the set method is starting with a set. Set, let's say, item count, right? And then you have to say self, and then typically you need to have a one input parameter because you are going to change this item count, right? So you need to have a one input parameter. So let's say IC for the item count, and then you have to say self dot item count is going to set to this value IC. Okay, so this is set method. Okay, so let's just use the set method. Okay, you can have a set method for the total price, but I'm gonna skip that part. So the set so this is like a set method, right? To change the value of item count, right? So let's say if you want to change, I know it really does not make sense, but I'm gonna just, this is just a demo. So I'm going to without adding any items, if I want to change the value of this item count, you can say register 2 dot. Now I'm going to use a set item count, this function, this new method, the setMethod. And then I'm going to provide a value, let's say 10. So without adding anything, I know it does not make sense, but this is just, I'd like to show you how you can use this setMethod if you want to change individual instance variable to the value that you want. In this example, 10, right? Then, so first let's run this if it just makes sense. There's no syntax error. Good, no problem. So I just changed the value. So what you can do is after this, let's just print out number of item, right? So it should change to 10 now. Okay, so let's just run this get count, right? Good. So let's just run this. Good. So as you can see, number of item is now set to 10. So that's why it's called setMethod or the mutator method. Okay. So let me end my lecture here. So I'm done with implementing this class CashRegister, and then I demonstrate how you can create an object of type CashRegister. And in this example, I create two objects, and the register one is what? A reference variable pointing to this object, and reference 2 is another new reference variable pointing to another object, right? So now this is how you can, for example, create a class, and from this is how you define a class, right? And then this is how you can create an actual object of type CashRegister. Okay, so I'm done my lecture here.